A quiet afternoon by the Lumber River in North Carolina. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, and the water flows gently. But then a sound breaks the peace. A woman's cry, faint, desperate, and chilling. And then a gunshot. What unfolds next is a story so twisted, so heartbreaking. It will leave you questioning everything you think you know about love, faith, and betrayal. This is the tragic tale of Micah Miller, a woman whose life ended far too soon, and the shocking secrets that emerged after her death. Welcome to Mysteries with Shrofit. Today, we're diving into a case that's as mysterious as it is devastating. Micah Miller was only 30 years old when her life came to a sudden and tragic end on April 27, 2024. She was a woman of faith, a worship leader, a missionary, and a devoted stepmother. But behind her radiant smile and unwavering devotion to her church, there was a darker story, one of control, manipulation, and a marriage that many believe was anything but holy. Micah's death was ruled a suicide, but those who knew her best are convinced there's more to the story. Much more. At the center of this mystery is John Paul Miller, Micah's husband and a pastor at Solid Rock Church in South Carolina. Their relationship began when Micah was just 14 years old, and John Paul was her youth pastor, a man 14 years her senior, already married with children. Over time, their connection deepened, leading to an affair that would shatter two marriages and set the stage for a union that many now describe as deeply troubled. In 2017, Micah and John Paul married, but their life together was far from the fairy tale they might have imagined. Micah became a stepmother to 5 children and took on a prominent role in the church. She led worship, designed graphics, and oversaw women's and youth ministries. She was passionate about missions, even traveling to Kenya to support the church's initiatives. But behind closed doors, the marriage was unraveling. Friends and family say Micah tried to leave John Paul multiple times, only to be pulled back in. And then, just days before her death, she made a decision that would change everything. She filed for divorce. On that fateful day in April, Micah's life ended on the banks of the Lumber River. She was found with a single gunshot wound to the head. A gun recently purchased in her name was recovered nearby. The coroner ruled it a suicide, but those who loved Micah couldn't accept it. They pointed to cryptic messages she had shared, her plans for the future, and her growing determination to break free from her marriage. They believed Micah had been silenced, and they had a prime suspect, John Paul Miller. In the weeks leading up to her death, Micah had spoken out about abuse, both in her marriage and in the church. She shared cryptic messages about being the bride of Christ before anyone else's, and she hinted at the pain she endured. Her sister Sierra revealed that Micah had once said, "If I end up with a bullet in my head, it was not by me, it was JP." Was Micah Miller's death a tragic suicide, or was it something far more sinister? As we peel back the layers of this case, we'll explore allegations of abuse, manipulation, and the failures of a system that many believe let Micah down. This is a story that will leave you questioning the very institutions we're taught to trust. So, grab a seat, and let's dive into the mystery of Micah Miller's untimely death. But this is only the beginning. In the next part of this story, we'll uncover the chilling details of Micah's final days, the evidence that has left so many questioning the official narrative, and the shocking revelations about the man at the center of it all, John Paul Miller. Stay with us, this is a story you won't want to miss. Micah Miller was a woman on the edge. Just days before her death, she discovered a GPS tracker on her car again. It was the final straw. She filed for divorce, determined to break free from a marriage that had become a prison. But freedom would come at a cost. 2 days after her husband, John Paul Miller, was served the papers, Micah was found dead. A single gunshot to the head. Suicide, the coroner said. But those who knew Micah, her family, her friends, refused to believe it. They pointed to the man at the center of her turmoil, her husband, the pastor, and they weren't alone. John Paul Miller's reaction to Micah's death, Vav, unsettling. In the days following her tragic end, he seemed more concerned with controlling the narrative than grieving. He called friends, claiming Micah had bought a gun to shoot him. But why would she do that? Unless, of course, he had given her a reason. In her obituary, written by John Paul himself, he painted a picture of a devoted wife who praised him endlessly, even when it wasn't true. It was a tribute that many described as narcissistic, self-serving, and eerily detached from the reality of their marriage. The day after Micah's death, John Paul stood before his congregation at Solid Rock Church. His announcement was cold, almost clinical. He told them Micah had died by suicide, blaming her mental health and her failure to take her medication. But here's the thing. The coroner hadn't even released their findings yet. The police were still treating it as a suspicious death. So why was John Paul so quick to declare it self-inflicted? And why did he seem more concerned about taking a break from church than mourning the loss of his wife? As the days turned into weeks, more details about John Paul's past began to surface, and they were damning. A video from 2015 showed him in what appeared to be a drug-induced psychosis, claiming he felt ants crawling on him. A neighbor who posted the video accused John Paul of being a manipulator who used his power to silence his victims. And then there were the allegations of affairs, multiple affairs with women in his congregation. One of those women, Susie Skinner, had a husband who mysteriously drowned in a pool just a year earlier. Coincidence? Or something more sinister? Micah had been keeping secrets of her own. She left behind detailed journals documenting the abuse she endured and the schemes she was forced to participate in. One of those schemes involved siphoning money from the church's mission fund in Kenya. Micah's family believes John Paul used these schemes to control her, to make her complicit in his crimes. And when she tried to leave, he tracked her, stalked her, and allegedly manipulated her until she saw no way out. On the day of her death, Micah's movements were captured on camera. She bought a gun, drove to Lumber River State Park, and made a chilling 911 call. "I just want my family to know where to find me," she said. It was a call that many believe was staged, a desperate attempt to make her death look like a suicide. But the evidence, according to the police, pointed to suicide. John Paul had an alibi. He was at a sporting event in Charleston, hours away. But for Micah's family, the questions remain. Why was she cremated so quickly? Why wasn't a toxicology report done? And why does John Paul seem more nervous than grieving? Micah Miller's death is a tragedy, but it's also a mystery. Was it suicide, as the coroner concluded? Or was it something darker, a carefully orchestrated end to a life marked by control and manipulation? The investigation is closed, but the questions linger. And for those who loved Micah, the fight for answers is far from over. Thanks for watching. If this story gripped you as much as it did me, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the cases that captivate and haunt us. See you in the next video.